I'm Christophe Feuillard, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am from EDF International Networks, and I will just explain very quickly what is EDF International Networks. In fact, in France, you have Enedis, that was fully presented with Antoine and Stéphane, who is the leading DSO in France, which is a part of EDF Group. And as we have a regulated market in France, it's not allowed for Enedis to go abroad and to bring services. So we have this specific vehicle, EDF International Networks, which brings the expertise of Enedis on the international market. So I am in charge for this vehicle for Asia, in charge of business development for Asia. Just very quickly, and I will not go through this slide, but just to show you that for sure we can provide all the services of a DISCOM, but in the innovation on the right up side, you can see that there is the subject of today, microgrid. So for sure, as we are a commercial entity, so we have conducted some market survey and tried to understand the potential of microgrid on the international market. So there are some dots on this world map, and you can see that in Asia there are some needs, but not only in Asia, in Africa, in the US, under three qualifications of microgrids. Islanded microgrids for like isolated islands in Indonesia, for example, with no or very poor network connectivity, with very limited industry. This is one. For some rural microgrid, this could be the case in India, so in some places, with isolated villages, isolated areas with limited industry, but also on some resorts, army sites, or universities for resilience in urban microgrids. So these are the three, the main results, three typologies of microgrids that we have conducted through this market survey. What is interesting with EDF Group is that because in microgrid, you go from generation to supply, plus transmission, if any, distribution, whatever, there is a grid, but not only the grid, from generation to supply. And EDF brings all the full capacity from renewable storage controls, energy services, combined heat and power if needed, smart lighting, operation and maintenance, and research and development. I think EDF is one of the very few energy or electrical group that can provide this full broad of activities and which are needed for those different types of microgrids. We can come back if you have questions on that, but I think this is quite common to everybody. So I will now just illustrate with three projects we have in Asia. The first one is in Indonesia. You know that Indonesia is a place where there are more islands in the world. And so we are working with partners, local partners, either Adaro or Indonesia Power, in two areas, which are Sulawesi and Maluku. For those who knows a little Indonesia, it's east part of Indonesia, in the islands. The objective is to electrify with creation of hybrid plants. So you can see that it's not only grid, it's biomass, PV, so solar, storage, on very selected islands, with powers going from 4 megawatts to 100 megawatts. And we take this opportunity to optimize the network for local balance, for sure, and grid management. So it's a full system, in fact, micro system. It's not only grid, but micro system, electrical system. What is the present situation? In fact, those regions, the electricity is provided 5 hours a day, at best. So there are thousands of inhabitants, but there is some new demands for and potentials for fishery, tourism, etc. So there is quite a large demand needs, and this is the objective of those projects. The status of this project is that we've been through the pre-feasibility study, that this is done, and we are negotiating with the provinces, the two provinces, to prioritize the islands and to define under which conditions we can provide this micro system, not only grid, but systems. Again, our plus is that we can bring the full expertise on those kind of projects. Another example, Vietnam, we have been working in Vietnam for quite long. EDF is a very good partner of EVN, the local player in electricity in Vietnam. And in the south with SPC, which is the South DSO of Vietnam, they are dealing with some islands. One of them is Con Dao Island. And they want to reduce the energy cost because, again, and this will be one of my takeaways, is that business model is not that clear. That was your question, in fact. Business model of microgrid is not proven yet. So those projects are kind of pilot projects, and we try to find what could be the business model. So in these islands, they are using fuel generation, so with very high cost. So the present situation is that the people, the customers, they pay a lot, 5-10 times the price that they would have in Vietnam, in the mainland. So the objective is to reduce the energy cost in limiting this use of diesel generation by developing some solar plants, 20 megawatts solar plants, plus management tools for the network. There are not that much residents, some 500 plus people, but there is, again, huge tourism potentials. So there are big hotels, 5-star hotels, they are running their own electrical systems. So it's quite costly also for those places. So there are attractive places, temples, fishery industry, public lighting. So the needs can be quite huge, but they don't have this electricity with quite not low price, but acceptable price. The price is very, very expensive. So we are discussing with the local operator to see how we can help them to improve this business model and find the best business model. The last example I would like to share is in Myanmar. So we are working with two partners, Infra Capital Myanmar and Solarize, to make two pilots in villages, and if we can find a good business model, to increase that to potential of 200 villages. What is the objective is to electrify those pilot villages to test the business model with what we call ABC approach. ABC means anchor, business, and customers. The A is for having this anchor, which are telecom towers as captive customers. So it's not the basic activity of a telecom operator to run the electricity for telecom towers. So there is an opportunity to use this with villages and to have this ABC approach, not only providing a captive customer some energy, but developing some local business and providing the customers with some electricity. So we have already identified 200 plus villages in similar on very poor electrification conditions with no network access in the 10 coming years. This is quite important because for sure, if we want to have the return on the investment, we have to at least have 10 years of operation of these systems before us. So we are conducting the pre-feasibility studies, the microgrid system designs, and we have started the construction for the first village, and things are moving. One of the main objectives is to test if we can find a good business model. Again, I will not go in details in those potential benefits, but there are, of course, 3 areas of benefits with microgrids: and economics, resilience, environmental. I will not go in details because maybe, except if you have any questions. My key takeaways, because I had only 10 minutes, so I try to keep my time. Microgrid, either isolated or connectable, they have a huge potential development in the energy transition context. This is key, and everybody is looking at those microgrids, how can we do, etc. But the profitable business model are still to be demonstrated. This is not demonstrated. And this was one of your, the perfume of your questions, all your questions. What will, at the end of the day, the customer pay for it? So this is not yet demonstrated. So we are working on those pilots to try to demonstrate what can be the right model. The strong point of EDF as a big electricity group is that we cover the full range of expertise needed for those microgrids. And we are working already on various pilot projects, not only in France, as Stéphane said, but also in different places in the international markets to test technical solutions and business models. For India, for sure, we would be very pleased to find partners to investigate this market in India. We think there is a potential. We don't know yet exactly, but we think there are some potential because electrification is not 100%. I know that there are some some villages, they have some electricity, but not all the customers, they have the electricity. So there are still some improvement to be done.
No, just to make this point, we have reached to every household, except some 18,000 households in Chhattisgarh where some disturbances are there. We have reached to every household. If there are no light in some household, that could be because of disconnection, non-payment and things like that. Not like that. But every household we have not reached through the grid connection. Many of them, more than 200,000, almost 300,000, we have reached through the off-grid solutions. Like this, what you call standalone solution.
Okay.
Microgrid, we have some 3,000 small microgrid in our country. But they all are in a very, now in a different shape. Our tariff policy has come out. We have asked that if you have developed a microgrid, you had been supplying to the local consumer at whatever the mutually agreed tariff it would have been. Now you can connect it to the grid. If the grid has reached there, the concerned DISCOM will buy your all production at a regulated price. And again, the consumer will get at the regulated price. Because consumer cannot be asked to pay more. Poor consumer cannot be asked to pay more. Initially, they might have been doing because there was no energy available, but now it is available. So that's not the case. Say, but then you very well divided the three categories. Microgrid in the rural area, microgrid say connected with the grid, and microgrid in the urban locality and things like that. Microgrid in urban locality has a lot of future in this country because we are just changing the energy mix and we need it. Microgrid in areas connected with the grid is fully operational now because there are tariff decided by the regulator on all those things. Microgrid in area without the grid, say completely a smaller area. I mean, if at all somebody needs, can have, but then it does not conform to any viable business model. It's a costly affair. Because one off-grid solution that we have gone for in such area had costed us something around 35,000 rupee. So one small family, because here the government has chipped in, and so it didn't matter whether business is there or not, because our aim was to give electricity to every household. So government paid for it. Otherwise, the cost of one off-grid solution is 35,000 rupee. Something around in dollar you will find, or something, say 500 euro. 500 US dollar. So $500 is too big a cost.
Yeah. Okay, so I think on this latest case, for sure, we are ready to work, and we are already working with Tata, but we can work with other partners to try to downsize the cost of those integrated solutions. This could be some future in India for some microgrid, not only in urban areas. Thank you for your attention.